So you like potatoes? No one does that, right? But if you're like, so you're Italian. Ziti, am I right? You're like, stop it.
Muscatoli, cannolis, angel wings.
Right.
Well,
manicotti.
I do a joke about that, how St. Patrick's Day, there's no good food on St. Patrick's Day. But Cinco de Mayo, it's all Mexican food. So I talk about those two drinking holidays.
It's just food there. We're on Facebook Live. We're good, Ryan? Are we up? Okay, we're on Facebook Live. I want to say hi to everybody watching this morning. Hi.
I was waving the wrong way
world.
again.
That's okay. That's Mark Ridley right there, Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. Is your mic on, Mark?
No.
Probably not.
He's on 5. We got to have Ryan come over. You're on, Sal. We got to get Ryan on. Hold on. We got too many microphones open up here. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. I'll tell you what. You guys play mic switch. Swing that mic over to Mark, and then you grab the other one.
Sure, sounds good.
Yeah. Damn producers. You know?
Ryan, do your job.
Come on, man.
Is this one on then? Is that what you're saying?
And then you're on that one. You don't need 2 mics. You're not like a Vita Perone or something. Ridley said,
Don't cry for me.
Don't cry for me, Royal Oak parking. Do you guys have parking in Royal Oak anymore? Is it, we heard all the things.
You know
Is there
what?
still parking?
It was last year. It was bad. Now they're getting better. We're going to have that new parking structure open like a couple blocks from the club. Another 400 cars parked there.
Right.
So, but yeah.
The Joe Vicari Memorial? Too soon?
Yeah,
I can't make that joke? Come on.
Whoa,
Come
man.
on. Come on.
No, actually, it's getting better. I mean, I was told I'm going to go through 2 years of hell there, and it's been about a year and a half.
Well, it's only taken what?
Wow.
How you finally, this is your 40th anniversary.
Yeah, 40 years, right.
So when you started the Comedy Castle, there was just open field, right? It
Well,
was just plains
basically,
and-
the cows would park out front. And, I mean, if I look at next door where the brewery is, that was an old antique store, and the guy lived in the back of the store, and he was paying $500 a month rent for that place.
Jeez.
Oh, come on.
The size of the brewery. Yeah.
Now
No way.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Now that's the parking fee.
Yeah, now that's a parking fee for
That's
a
2
month.
hours down there, man.
But, listen, Royal Oak is a product of its own success. It's just going to keep going and going and growing. So
It's a good problem.
and it's a good problem
Yeah,
to
it
have.
is.
Yeah.
Well, we got Mark. We got Sal Demilio in the studio. Did I say it right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
Sal
job.
Demilio.
Demilio.
Yeah, and he brought a lot of food with him. This is the first course, right?
Facebook.
All
A
you-
dozen cannolis out there.
Yeah.
You're emceeing tonight the 8th Annual Salvation Army Comedy for a Cause at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle.
Yeah.
248-542. You think I know the number, 9900 or comedycastle.com.
Yeah.
Now, the tickets are what? How much, 32?
$32, but that includes the show with
Yep.
Sal, Chris Young, and Don Friesen.
Nice.
Don Friesen flying in today to Michigan. Friesen on Friesen Day.
Right. You couldn't
So
do this
that's
in August?
That's our headline. Yeah, I know, exactly. We always do it. I fly back from Florida. I flew back last night.
You lost a
And,
bet. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife said she emailed me this morning. It's going to be 80 today. I don't. Why she rub it in? I'm not even cold. Yeah, she's rubbing it in.
And you guys got Lockhart's doing the barbecue. They're
Lockhart's
awesome.
doing the barbecue. Absolutely. So that's all
and-
included.
I was thinking, we saw the one stat. Since you guys have been doing this since, what, 2012?
Yeah.
Over 200 grand
Over
raised for the Salvation
200,000.
Army. All right.
So, yeah.
That's
Awesome.
awesome.
You got to
And
clap in radio. Sal.
Yeah,
we clap
that's
all the time
right.
for everything. We clap for
It
everything.
is
That's
good.
for their,
Yeah.
is it the bed and bread
Bed and bread program, right,
Yeah.
right, which is mobile soup kitchens basically, and they dole out 1.3 million meals per year.
133,000 nights for homeless to stay overnight at a place or
Yeah.
have
Yeah, wow.
lodging. It's
Now's,
awesome.
now's the time for that, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a very cool event. Now, as MC tonight, Sal, we were talking earlier that since Sal and Aaron are both Italian, we immediately started talking about food.
Of course.
And
That's what
guys
we
are-
do.
I love you guys already. Mark, get out of here. I can spend the next hour just talking about
I have
food.
the British background. You know, we're famous for our cookbooks.
Right.
This
You
thing.
do that thing, yeah.
Fish and chips and mushy peas with
That's
a
it.
pint. There you go.
As you meet a British people, you walk me like, bangers and mash, huh? They're
Yeah.
like, what is that? Sausage and potatoes.
Yeah,
Like, well, that's
exactly.
exciting.
Yeah.
But you were mentioning, we were talking about before, though. Aaron and I get into these discussions all the time. There's something about Italians when and I don't know why I do this, but every time I meet somebody Italian, I go, lasagna, am I right? I mean, I start bringing up types of food. Ziti?
That
Peppers and
doesn't-
onions.
I've been eating 3 pastas a day for the last 50 years of my life. So, what kind of pasta do you guys want to talk about? If it's got sauce and noodles, I'm in, you know?
See, like Goodfellas to me is just a cooking show where they go to prison for a little bit. That's all it is.
Yeah, right.
She smuggles.
At a pizza joint.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah. Now that you think every mom is cooked. Right.
Right.
That and a boat.
Boat scene, yeah. Don't get on a boat and don't bring Chinese food to an Italian thing. You'll be fine, man.
Well, that's how they get you hooked on it. A little bit of crime, a lot of food. A lot of crime, a little food.
I didn't want to be a gangster, but God, the food is awesome.
Food is so good, yeah.
Have you
3
had the
squares a
cannoli?
day.
I didn't even know what cannoli was till like 3 years ago. I mean, I knew what it
Really?
was, but I'd never really had a cannoli. See right there. That's why I did that.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't have a donut ever again.
Yeah.
This is dirty.
It is,
It's just awesome. Look, I'm 51 years old. I still eat my piece of McRavioli. I'm eating over at Mama Louise's house, you guys. That's the way it goes.
You know what?
Manja.
I'm going to have to talk to my people at the Golden Arches because
I guarantee. I do know that McDonald's sells spaghetti overseas.
they do
Seriously.
overseas.
Do they
yeah.
really?
Seriously. Yeah,
it's
they
not
have
that
it.
good, though.
No, it can't be.
No.
How can it be?
No. Did anybody ever open an Italian restaurant that just says manja?
Eat.
Yeah,
I'm
manja.
sure there's a manja out there.
There has
That's
to be.
You had your
5,000.
idea with the Comedy Castle. You're good.
I'm good.
You're fine.
I'll leave it at that. Then.
You're set.
Keep
You're
my
set,
mouth
Mark.
shut and just eat it.
No, man. I love it, man. It's such a cool event tonight. And I would
Yeah.
imagine, too, that when people are down there tonight, because you're giving to a cause like Salvation Army,
Yeah.
what they do,
Yeah.
everyone's just, the crowd's in a good mood, too.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I mean, I've seen a lot of shows over the years, but this particular show, besides the fact that it's benefiting, it's a good cause, people are on such a high when they walk in because they know they're going to see a good show. I mean, year just seems to get better.
Right.
And each year, it's the only time I go on stage. I'll do a little introduction, little dog and pony show, and then
Do
say
you
a
tight
few
5
things.
to get at their mark? And
Tight
working
5,
yeah.
tight 1.
Okay.
Or a loose 2. But anyway, I say I want to outgrow the Comedy Castle. In other words, I'd like to get it down to the Royal Oak Theater and get more people involved. And I don't have a problem with that. And every year we talk about it. And I think when we do the 10th one, we've discussed the fact that we're going to go to the Royal Oak Theater with it. To get some big-
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I've discussed it with several big name comedians. And I can get the sponsors and everything else. And I said we could do something with money than we raise on, which is nice. It's still nice at Comedy Castle, but I know we could raise more money in one night.
Love this.
Really cool.
We're on Facebook Live. I want to say hi again to everybody else.
Hi, guys.
And
Lisa,
we're doing
hey.
Hi there. Sal is MC. I've been watching. I know Aaron knows I've been talking about this. That show Crashing, the one about that Pete Holmes is doing.
Oh, yeah, great
on
show.
HBO. How real is it?
That's pretty realistic, especially like for the New York comedy scene. I mean, I've never really done stand-up in New York. I've watched it there a lot. I've gone to the Comedy Cellar and all those clubs over there, but it's pretty realistic. I mean, we were talking off air about the college episode.
Right.
That is absolutely
What is it?
real.
DACA? What is it called?
NACA.
Yeah.
Not DACA. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah. Ooh.
Easy.
Moving on.
Welcome to CNBC Comedy.
Yeah, that's pretty realistic. I
You
mean,
did that, though. That audition process and
I
everything?
did it like 20 years ago, and it's probably a lot more sensitive on the college campuses
It is.
these
It's a lot
days.
more
But
sensitive. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and then, the other part was, but I was thinking about you as an MC, that's not an easy job, A, and great on you for doing this tonight, Sal. But Pete, there's a couple episodes where that's how he keeps busy during the week in New York, is
Yeah.
he sets up these events and he's just MCing. Comedy's just one of those things that you got to keep working, don't you?
MCing, it gets you better prepared to headline. If you MC a lot of shows, you're going to get better as a feature and as a headliner. It is the toughest spot.
Yeah.
So if you can do well as an MC, when you get a feature gig, whether it's at the Comedy Castle or any other club across the country, now you've done the MC work. So if somebody talks to you, you can handle it. If the crowd's cold, you can handle it. It just makes you a better comic.
And there is a lot of work for a good MC out there in corporate events.
Do you come out as Arsenio from Coming to America and go, Randy Watson, sexual chocolate?
Now I got to tell you, I MC'd for 14 years. I MC'd the club. I never made it beyond MC. I never got to be a feature or
I think you can headline
no,
Mark
no,
Ridley's.
Hi, welcome to Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. I'm Mark Ridley. Get off the stage!
Yeah. I'll be doing my 1980s material. Wait, let me put my mullet back on.
Is it just me or the Cylons in Battlestar Galactica, right? You can't go back to
Can't
that
go
stuff.
back
It
that
doesn't
far.
work.
No.
No wonder they can't hit anything.
Yeah.
You should do that. It'd be the obscure 80s reference
So,
comedian.
so Clinton didn't inhale.
Right,
Yeah, right.
So I'm watching Rabbit Test with Joan Rivers and Billy Crystal. What? Who is this guy?
Well, I was listening to my Prince mixtape.
And, and Reagan fired all the air traffic controllers.
Exactly.
Wow.
Is it just me or is Buddy on Family a guy or a girl? Am I
Yeah,
the only
right,
one?
right,
I don't get it.
Yeah. Great.
You guys can pick up my cassette out there. You guys CD, just cassettes.
Yeah,
That's all we have.
just
Only
Just
cassette.
cassettes. Only cassettes. They're also available at Sam Goody.
Yeah. Well, you are stuck in it.
That'd be fantastic. The obscure 80s comedian.
That's funny you should say that because before we remodeled the Comedy Castle to what it looks like now, when Kathleen Madigan came in, she goes, okay, Rick Dorfman down in Brian Dorfman at Zany's in Nashville has the only 80s look comedy club anymore. You were the second to the last one.
You were holding on.
Your wife finally got a hold of you and said, let's do something with this place.
Mark, we got to fix this a little bit.
Yeah,
man.
right.
Oh, my God, man. Again, the 8th Annual Salvation Army Comedy for a Cause of Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. It's fun to me, and we always get, anytime I get a comedian come in here, I always love to ask about, you mentioned earlier, Sal, when you deal with hecklers or people who are talking in the crowd, and there's an art form to it. I love it. I don't know how you do it because we're blessed with the fact that we're here in the studio, that we don't have to, not that we don't have to deal with people directly, but we're in our own little room with the microphones and we can kind of just focus on what we're doing.
Sure.
You're not only trying to entertain a crowd, but they're looking right at you, man. If someone comes in there in a bad mood, they're just going to mess with you. Are you someone who ignores them or do you go after them?
I think, Mark probably has dealt with it so many years at the club, just dealing with it. But I think of hecklers as, I think there's like 2 or 3 different types of hecklers. There's the funny, nice heckler that just wants to banter with you and is not really that obnoxious.
Right.
Then there's the all-out drunk guy who's just being obnoxious and you just need to get him out of there.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of like a window in between there. I don't mind the nice heckler, the guy with the ugly shirt, or the guy that's just, chiming in on some of my bits and just wants to have a little fun, and I can make fun of where he works or, his dating. Maybe he's on a first date, so you can make fun of that.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
It's like a freebie, though, right?
Yeah, I don't like the absolute drunk guy that's just he's just like got Tourette's syndrome and he's just yelling stuff out.
It's like you have a natural a-hole, add liquor, and it grows exponentially from there.
Yeah.
So have you ever had to walk somebody? I mean, I'm sure you have at the castle.
Me?
Go and get somebody.
No,
and just,
I hire people to do that.
all right, Joey bag of donuts. I mean, but
I've
you know
got
what I
a
mean?
guy-
Have you sent
No,
someone
no.
to go, you need to get that guy out of
We
here because
give
it's going
them
to
a
get bad?
warning, and we do an intro. We give them one warning, be quiet. Second time, we're walking and talking them out the door. And my showroom manager, Bill Lodge, is a power lifter and has been a bouncer for 40 years. And he doesn't even have to grab you. He just looks at you.
They
He's
know.
right. Am
Yeah,
I
no,
right?
he-
He's a
he's-
big
yeah.
guy, and his looks will just say, okay, I have to leave.
Yeah.
And then the other thing a customer has to realize, look, you're bantering with a guy who has a microphone in his hand,
Right.
and you have nothing except you're slurring your words out of from the table.
It's true.
Were there comedians that would maybe a little more aggressive towards
Oh God, yeah.
names? I mean, I don't
Well,
think
no,
it's
I
a
mean,
negative thing.
if somebody, I used to have a thing. I said, if you want that person out of the room, just say, Mark, have this guy put to sleep. That was a cue to get him out of there. But there were other comedians that right in the middle of their act would snap and say, and then just go off on a string of epithets to get him out of there.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was more like Joe Rogan. I mean, he's such a physical dude.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
one of those guys I would not want to mess with.
No.
No.
Yeah. But he's an MMA guy, and
Right.
He'll shred you.
he'll shred you, right?
You'll need therapy when
Yeah.
you walk out of the comedy club.
You end up in a spit in his backyard and barbecue.
Is Lewis Black that way?
No, look, actually, I got to tell you, I was in Florida last March, and I went to see him at Van Wezel down there, and he does a whole thing at the end of his show where he's on his laptop answering questions from around the country,
Right.
and all of a sudden a big fight broke out in the back. I mean, a huge fight, because Lewis can be very divisive politically.
Oh, yeah.
And the security took care of that, and I talked to him afterwards, and he said that's the second night in a row that's happened. said, have you ever personally had to deal with it? And he goes, well, I've had things thrown at me. He
Oh
said,
my gosh.
yeah. He said, but thankfully, a good club will have a bouncer or security to get him out of there. So, but he said, but it's been a long time since I've had to work in a comedy club.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
You ever anything thrown at you, Sal?
Nothing thrown at me. Well, no, I did. I had a beer can thrown at me. So, but it was an empty beer can, and I kind of just shrugged it off. Wasn't that bad.
I got to tell you one quick story. When I first started the club in '79, there was a guy sitting in the front row, and I'm maybe three months into the business, right? And he was wearing a hat that, remember Billy Jack, the movie Billy Jack? That
Absolutely,
hat that
yeah.
Tom Laughlin wore?
Yeah, I'm going to kick you in the right side of your face.
Yeah,
There's not a damn
I
thing
said
you
that
can do
to the
about it.
guy, and he goes, "Oh, really?" And he reached down in his boot and pulled out a large knife about that big.
Good
He
Lord.
goes, "I'm going to cut you up so
jeez.
badly." And right then, I wish I had a diaper on. And I pointed to the bartender, and I said, "Call the police." I had a stool between me and him. And the cops came and arrested him.
See, that would be terrifying. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to react to that. I remember seeing the video a couple years ago. Was it Steve Hofstetter that just laid into that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, oh
Yeah.
man. Like, and I was watching it and I'm thinking, I couldn't do that. Like Jim said, we're protected in here.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Yeah.
our room. And yeah, we get an occasional text message that says, STFU, I
Yeah.
hate you, you're annoying. But
Yeah.
you're not face to face with people. So you don't have that
Right.
intimidation
Right.
factor.
Right. And sometimes we will have large groups of people. One of the weirdest fights I've ever seen at the club was the fight between, it was a wedding party, pre-wedding party, where the bride's father got in a fist fight with the groom. And this is before the wedding.
Wow.
So what a way to start out a new marriage.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, this is I love you, like brawling like that.
Yeah.
So, Sal, who was the comedian that you heard that made you want to? Is there someone in particular that you said, I want to do that? I want to be this guy. Or
Yeah,
get
I
in
used to
that."
watch Rodney Dangerfield, like when I, in the '80s. I mean, I loved him. I loved his movies, and obviously all the greats that everybody knows: Richard
Yeah.
Pryor, George Carlin, and then later on Jerry Seinfeld and Ray Romano, and and I'm just a comedy fan. I'm a comedian, but I also love comedians that are working today. You know,
So
that
give me a name of somebody maybe that's not so mainstream. Someone that you like. Like we're in what we do in classic rock. We always tend to go the deep cut thing. We always
Yeah.
like, what's your favorite Bob Seger song? Like 2
Right.
+ 2, and I go, oh, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
snob.
Yeah.
But there's like for me, one of my favorite comedians is Fox, John Fox, right?
John Fox, right.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
And I saw this guy live, and I wanted to be him because he was so quick.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
it was it was kind of a Rodney kind of boom, boom, boom,
Yep.
boom.
Yeah.
Laugh my ass off like that.
Yeah.
And you see these people, but is there someone like that jumps
Well,
out
it's
at
funny
you?
you just asked that. And I just met this guy. I saw him. I saw him down in Florida. Matthew Broussard, I think is his name.
I've heard the name, yeah.
So I never seen this guy before. I'm sitting in the back of the room, and he's doing something different right now. Both of his parents are doctors, so he does all this like really smart kind of doctor humor, and it's resonating with a crowd that might not know about that industry.
Yeah.
And to talk about that and then get people to laugh at it is amazing, and he's really, really good. So that's just one example of a guy that I just saw that kind of inspirational to me too.
We had something similar last Sunday at the club. Shane Mauss is another act like that. He's out, very, very smart, funny comedian, and he did stand-up science. So what he does, it's a combination of stand-up comedy, 2 comedians, plus 2 local scientists talking about genetics, longevity, things like that. And he kind of blends it all in together, and has a Q&A after the show with the crowd. And 300 people showed up for it.
Nice.
Are you kidding me?
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So comedians are looking for different ways to market themselves,
Correct.
start a new niche, and then get their name out there. And Steve Hofstetter is coming into the club.
Oh
the
my
guy has an
gosh.
amazing following
He
because
is.
he's so knowledgeable with social media.
And he's so quick
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
He is quick.
Yeah.
That's what I mentioned. That video I saw him taking down the hecklers. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
guy is so snappy. And the people that he ripped on, they didn't even know what hit him.
Yeah.
He was so quick. I
Yeah.
was like, wow.
And it's funny because a lot of comedians have been accused of bringing plants. In other words, you knew what to say because that was the guy that you brought in. They go,
Yeah.
No, I can't even afford to support myself. I'm going to bring a guy with me.
Sometimes it just works out. I mean,
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, Jim. Sometimes just bantering with a heckler, sometimes it can be horrible. Like you
Yeah.
just don't know what to say to the guy.
It can
It's
go
not
south
working. The
real
crowd's.
fast, yeah.
But sometimes it's like an orchestra. It
Yeah.
just works.
Paul Mercurio is one of those guys that just goes out into the crowd.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we're watching every time. You can go every night and see him.
Yeah.
and you're never getting the same show
Never
because
getting
there
the
was a
same show.
bachelorette party, and I
Right.
saw his eyes light up and go, "Game on!" And
Yeah,
he just
yeah.
went running out there. What about you? Like the other side of the coin, Mark. Is there someone maybe that you saw that you I wouldn't say missed on, but you didn't get what they were doing? You know what I mean? Like, because right
yeah.
now, again, going back to Crashing, part of the thing is that Pete Holmes went out, was successful, goes to the Comedy Cellar. He thought he killed it. She's like, yeah, I've got 10 guys who do the same shtick you do.
You know,
You're not ready.
I can honestly say that what I do is a long and involved process. I mean, I'll bring in some people that will miss with the audience, but I like them. You know what I'm saying? Or an agent will give me a real strong sell on it and say, look, we're gonna come in at a really low price this time, but and then thankfully I brought him in at a low price, so it happened. But it's I've been very lucky. I mean, there's a new crop of comedians coming up. I just had Joe List. I've got Mark Norman coming in, Kyle Kinane. These are all the up and comers that are giving the next generation.
See, I love that stuff, Sal. I'm glad you shared some of the names. Same thing for you, Aaron. It's like we do get, I wouldn't say a rut, but we know we like what we like, and then maybe sometimes I think as we get older, we don't give new comedians a fair shake.
Right? No, it's
Well, no, because you always want to compare them to the George Carlins and the Richard Pryors and the Eddie Murphys, and for me, like Joan Rivers.
Yeah.
I thought her stand-up back in the day, she was so snarky and so witty. And then when you have the Amy Schumers and Sarah Silvermans come along, you're like, eh.
Well, now there's Deborah DiGiovanni, who's great. I mean, I've got her coming in New Year's Eve, which is, when I'm bringing somebody in New Year's Eve, they got to be good. And she's very good.
Yeah.
Jessica Kirshon is very good. So there's a lot of good females out there. And I mean, like I said, there's a whole new generation of comedians coming up that I really love.
But do you have to be dirty to make it now? This is because you're seeing, like Jim and I were talking about this the other day, you're seeing a new breed of comedians that have no filth in their routines at all, no swear words, no nothing.
Right.
And it's such a change from the 80s, because the 80s you had Eddie Murphy. Like people thought they're watching his movies thinking, oh, and then they watch his Raw and they're going, oh my gosh, what happened? And Carlin, and now you have like this new generation of comedians that are coming up, and there's no swear words, there's no filth, there's no sex, there's no.
I think, Aaron, what you're finding is that they're finally getting their way. They're finding their own voice. Louis Black said it took him 20 years to find his voice, and it really did. He was unknown for 20 years, and all of a sudden, when he started yelling and getting crazy, he broke.
Same thing for you, Sal. I would assume.
I've been unknown for 25 years, so I'm due to bust out.
What is it? Lowell Sanders says? I played in Canada and the United States. I'm internationally unknown.
But seriously, though, don't you? Was there a point where you found your voice on stage where you weren't trying to be a character, you were just being you?
You know what? It's fine. Real quick, years ago, I worked with a female comedian named Mary Ellen Hooper.
Yeah.
And I was opening for her, and I only had about 15 minutes of material at the time. And we were just having dinner, and she goes, "You're a funny guy." She goes, "But I don't know who you are." I was writing out of the paper. I was writing topical jokes, and and she's like, "I don't know who you are." And at that moment, it hit me. I got to talk about my family. I got to talk about my brothers and my mom and dad. And I started to write like that, and I've gotten a more work, and I've gotten better.
And see, that discipline, Jim, this goes back, I tell comedians this story, because I used to bring in guys who stayed at a little apartment I had in Birmingham, and Jerry Seinfeld was one of them. And I would go pick him up to do media in the morning. So I asked him one morning, I said, "What's your routine?" He goes, "First of all, I meditate." He's a devout, does TM, I think. And then he exercises, and then he reads, and then he writes for 4 hours, 7 days a week. Wow. So, and if you look at the documentary on Jerry, the way it's the comic strip, they have every single sheet of paper. It's a copy of every joke he's ever written.
Yeah,
covering a
great.
street.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Crazy.
Yeah, but that's just that discipline really paid off for him.
Madigan, when comes in, she's got notebooks. She
All
still
the
has.
time.
She
she's
writes
always
more than
writing.
any comedian
Yeah.
I've ever probably known in my life. Kathleen Madigan writes more.
She comes in with, out of an hour, she'll have 50 minutes of brand new material every time.
But to your point about you finding your own voice, what you were saying, like being you, one of the best examples for me is a guy named Greg Warren.
Yeah.
Very funny.
I'd seen him do stuff before, and then when he did the whole thing about the Flute Man Greg, when he was talking about how this one guy on his football team called him Flute Man Greg, although he played the clarinet, Flute Man Greg, Flute Man Greg. All of a sudden, I felt like I knew Greg Warren.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still follow him on Twitter and everything, and I'm a fan of his because, to your point, Sal, I'm like, I know this guy.
Yeah.
He was a wrestler in high school. His dad was he said he had a great line. He said he came in, and his dad was like 20 years later, he comes home to visit, and his dad's watching a high school wrestling match going, ah. He's like, that's 20 years ago, Dad. Yeah, you want to know? Because you lost right there.
Yeah, right.
That's why. He's like, why are you still doing this? But you're right. That kind of stuff, when all of a sudden it's a little bit more than just topical humor.
You have to write about what you know. And if you know your family that well, there's nothing better than, talking about your family.
Absolutely.
You know who's really good about that with the self-depreciating humor, and a lot of people don't like him because he is filthy, is Jim Norton.
Yeah.
He's filthy. And if you don't
funny.
know,
He's great.
if you don't know what you're getting when you go to a show, you will be like, oh my gosh.
Right.
But that's him. He's so real.
But that's a good point you made. If you're going to be filthy, like Mark just said, you better be funny.
Yeah.
Because you can be filthy and not funny, you're going to tank hard.
Yeah.
But if you're filthy and funny, God bless you. And Jim Norton's one of the best at it.
But he's real. That's who he is. He's a filthy person, and it's real. And you listen to his stories, and you're like, no way.
But he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
That's how he talks.
He's great.
Salvation Army Comedy for a Cause. Again, tonight we're on Facebook Live as well, doing this tonight, 7:30, Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. Get your tickets, comedycastle.com. Since we're talking about the comedians, though, I want to bring up something. Your experience, Mark, you're 40 years plus of doing this.
Yeah.
What's going on with Artie Lang? What am I watching as this goes down? I'm confused. We had him on last year, and he was the sweetest guy on the phone. And I watch him in Crashing, and I follow him on Twitter, and I don't know what I'm watching. Am I watching? You tell me. What's going on?
That's a great question because I don't know Artie. I've never had him at the club, but I remember listening to him on Stern and followed his career here and there. There's a lot of people out there that just say that it's just a sweet guy trapped in a very self-destructive body. He just, there are comedians like that. There are artists like that.
Yeah.
And I was saying earlier that we could walk down the wall, the hallway at the club, and I could put a piece of black tape on every comedian who's gone because of their demons now. Richard Jenney and Zach and Mac and
Mitch Hedberg, Greg Girardo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of that. But I was just curious because we're watching Artie, and all of us are fans of his.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating and sad at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
Brilliant comic.
Right.
Brilliant
You don't know what's going on, though.
Right.
The whole thing with his nose, and, now he was telling everybody that he got beat up or something
Yeah,
like that.
and everybody knows that that's not the case.
No.
I mean, but that's what I was going to ask, though. Like, when you see somebody like that has that amount of talent, and they're on this downward spiral, what's next?
Well, obviously the next thing is the cemetery. I mean, I've known comedians that have eaten themselves to death. John Panette, classic example. The guy was always one of the funniest, sweetest guys you could ever know. But if he didn't travel with his sponsor, that's another guy. There's a lot of guys have sponsors coming with them.
Greg did.
So Greg did.
Yeah, Greg did for a couple
Greg
of years.
Giraldo. And eventually he just did not wake up in a hotel room in Pennsylvania because his heart gave out. So it's just, as funny as they are, they've got 23 hours a day to kill.
Yeah.
You sleep. There's boredom on the road. There's a lot of stuff going on that can contribute to that demonic downfall.
But it is, and I don't want to be a big downer, but that to me is like it's such an interesting the lifestyle that you've chosen to lead and what you're succeeding at, what you guys do, man. Sal, it's like so much respect for you. I think I speak for Aaron. Everybody who's watching this. It ain't easy. We all go, I could get up there and do that.
No.
I've always thought I'd have the balls to go do a type 5 somewhere. I don't. I can't do it. I can maybe do like a minute worth of jokes. I would be horrified.
To this day, I mean, I promoted Tim Allen in concert at the Royal Oak Theater last year, and we're backstage, and he's pacing back and forth. And I said, "You still get nervous?" He goes, "Every single show."
You should.
He goes, "I am so afraid to go out there sometimes." He said, "I just have to work myself up."
Yeah.
So
and when you make 400 people laugh, on a Saturday night at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, it's just like a high.
It's better than any drug.
Yeah,
it really is.
And that's maybe why a lot of comedians do have demons, because that's a high. Doing stand-up is a high.
Yeah.
Doing heroin for Artie is a high, and unfortunately he does both of those.
Well, he's trying to always match that feeling of euphoria. That's probably
keep it going.
Yep.
Yeah,
Crazy
you're right,
stuff.
Aaron.
Yep.
Crazy stuff. But we're gonna have a good time tonight. Obviously, the Comedy for a Cause, Salvation Army, what they do here, the bed, so much what they do. Again, was it over 1 million meals? What is it? The total number? We're
over 1.4 million
That's
meals.
crazy
per
for
year.
the bed and bread program. That's so
It's
cool.
absolutely
It's
wonderful, and it's a great time. Listen, you get out, you contribute $32, or if you want to contribute more, you can text. I think it's bread.
Yeah, 91999.
Yep,
Just
91999.
before you guys are watching, you can do that too as well.
And we'll have a lot of fun with Sal and Chris Young and Don Friesen tonight.
Nice card. Got a card. Did we call it a card? I think I'm trying like a boxing.
bill.
match.
Good card, yeah.
Nice card,
Good
yeah.
card.
Looking forward to see Tommy
the ring
Hearns later
girl.
on. Yeah. Alexa Arguello will be there as well.
Mark will be on stage tonight.
Yeah, right. One of those
So-
rare appearances.
Doors open at what time?
6 o'clock.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
it starts at 7:30, and tickets are $32, and you get a buffet from Lockhart's.
From Lockhart's, right.
This is so cool.
So,
Great-
what
great
time does
evening.
the obscure '80s comedian come on? Have I worked
Hey,
up my
Jim.
time yet?
Just to satisfy you, I'll talk about Reagan. I'll talk about
Really?
Carter. Yeah, I'll do everything.
Bring your Rubik's cube tonight.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or why would a gremlin? Why would you even go swimming near a pool? Am
Yeah,
I right?
right, yeah.
Am I right? Thank you.
I'm going to go home and watch Goonies.
Obscure 80s, exactly. Yeah. The guy's mentally challenged. Why does he have a sailboat?
Yeah,
What the
exactly.
hell?
Oh, God.
Big guy. Goonies humor. See?
I love it.
I won't be there. Mark, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you,
Thanks
Aaron.
for having us.